So hello and welcome to the Expat Pod. My name is James, your host, and today I'm joined by my friend Laura, who lives in Sweden, which is how I know her. We worked together at Ulster, but you've now since left and you're now back home. So where have you lived so far?
Yeah, so hello everyone, I'm Laura, happy to be here. I moved around a bunch, but currently living in Gothenburg, Sweden, and that's how we know each other. Um, and right now, basically, I've been living there for the past 3 years. And to be honest, I moved out of my home country, which is Slovakia, when I was 16. I went to high school in Denmark and I loved, and I decided to stay there for university as well. So I was studying fashion in Copenhagen, and unfortunately, kind of a long story, but after 2 years, my line of study closed, probably due to staff and finance reasons. And the school offered me to continue in Danish, and I wasn't comfortable with that. So I refused, and instead, try to see this setback as an opportunity to move somewhere else. So I transferred to UK, and I finished my bachelor's at Kingston University. And I really enjoyed it. Very happy I did that. So I spent some time in the UK, and after that, the studies in the UK are quite expensive because you obviously have to pay for your tuition unless you have some sort of scholarship. And I had to get like a second job as a freelance graphic designer, which I love to do. And I realized that I love it right after I started doing it. So I decided to do a master's in interaction design and move back to Copenhagen. So I studied at an IT university in Copenhagen. And in the last semester, I kind of had an opportunity to do a semester abroad or semester anywhere in a company of my own choice and kind of do a master's thesis for them. So I kind of already knew a lot of people in the automotive industry because of my ex-boyfriend. And that's how I heard about like Polestar. They're looking for students to work on some projects. So I signed up, and So basically, one of my friends that worked at Polestar gave my portfolio to the right people, and I got the opportunity to work there and finish my master's thesis. And after that, they offered me a full-time job right after I graduated, which I'm super grateful for. So I stayed in Sweden, and I've been living there ever since, basically. So yeah.
So hello and welcome to section one of the podcast all about getting there. So Laura, you've kind of given us a nice kind of snippet of your time going around from home to Denmark to the UK back and then to Sweden. So when it comes about moving abroad, when you were moving to Denmark, how did you find out about the school? How did you, move from where you grew up to Denmark? What was the process like?
Yeah, it was kind of easy, to be honest. It was like the easiest move for me because my high school in Slovakia kind of collaborated with the school in Denmark. I don't want to say it was an exchange program because nobody from Denmark came to Slovakia. It was just people from here going there. And that was for high school. So I was 16 and I heard about it. I applied and I got like a scholarship at that high school. So that was really fun. And eventually I found out that two of my other friends from the same school applied as well. So we kind of went together and it was really fun.
Well, you went by yourself. So 16 is quite a young age to leave home. So were you boarding? Were you like what was the situation?
No, I mean, I've always kind of traveled a lot because I used to be a professional dancer and we traveled a lot for like dance competitions all around Europe. And I don't know, I never felt uncomfortable or alone or that I can't do it. And to be really honest, like I don't want to be, I don't want to bad talk my own country, but I wanted to get, higher education somewhere else because of the quality and also, the price and stuff like that. Not that it would be expensive in Slovakia, but, Scandinavia has free education, free universities for European Union citizens. So, and I love Scandinavia. I always liked it. So after that first taste of high school, I just kind of wanted to keep going. And I didn't really see myself living in Slovakia. So yeah, I left. But as I said, I think the earlier you leave, the more independent you become. And that kind of carries you on. I mean, you just feel confident. It gives you more confidence. So I think that's what happened, at least to me.
I guess as you said, being like traveling the world whilst dancing, it probably helps a lot for the
Yeah, of course.
the wanderlust.
Exactly. And my family like always supported me with like travels, and we also travel as a family a lot, like, you know, every summer at least or twice a year to like different countries, and yeah, it was just kind of normal. I didn't feel that it's something strange or that, you know, I didn't really think about it. You know, I was thinking I was stupid and young and I just wanted to do things. So
I mean, I still feel stupid and young, even though I'm not, but I still feel like I'm 18.
can be same here.
But the issue is now I have money to be stupid and young, so I make bad decisions all the time. So
Well, I don't know if it's still an excuse. I mean, I'm 26 and I cannot say I'm stupid and young anymore, but I am.
I mean, I'm older than you, so I'm saying that you can definitely say.
Depends on how you speak to that.
Wonderful. So then you were saying about how your school kind of stopped doing your course in English. I'm assuming I got it wrong.
Yes.
But you then went to the UK. So how did you find places in the UK to live? Like, what was the process for that? Did you just do some Googling, or did you speak to any advisors?
Yeah, again, I think I was very stupid about the whole process because I thought I can like do it all by myself, and I did. So I didn't talk to an agencies. I didn't talk to my university. I was just like on Facebook talking to random people, and it was actually quite dangerous. Like, especially in this age, for a young girl to be speaking to strangers on the internet, if you can live with them for the next months, years, yeah, you have to really double check. But I was very lucky to find a girl in the UK that was renting a big house, and basically they were renting separate rooms in the house. And one of the girls just moved out, so they had a spare room, and I think she was like advertising it on some sort of Facebook group page. And then I wrote her, we started chatting, and then we took a bunch of calls, like FaceTime and stuff. So I really knew who I'm meeting and where she lives, how the apartment looked like, and all of that. So we just kind of agreed that, I'm going to pay a deposit, and I kind of moved in there. So I didn't use any agencies or anything like that. And I'm kind of happy I didn't, because I heard they're very overpriced and not very reliable. So yeah, I was lucky.
Rent in the UK is not cheap. But then neither in Sweden it's also very expensive. So the actual school you applied for, though, was that, did you have your place first before looking for accommodation, or did you going to go vice versa?
Yeah, I like every time I move somewhere, I make sure that I actually have something to do there, that I'm not gonna be just paying rent and do nothing. So obviously I had my spot secured, and I think I got offered like a half scholarship at that university. So I didn't have to pay the tuition in full, but still I had to pay, I don't know, 50% or 60%, or I don't know how much it was anymore, because I've already paid off my student loan, which I'm really happy for. And
I mean, I've like finished the sides of my student loan. It's still a lot of money. I looked at it this morning, and it's still like £60,000.
So much, especially for a young person, like right after you finish uni, and then you realize I'm already in debt before I even started working. That's like, a lot of mental pressure, at least for me. So I had to pay it off as early as I could, because I don't want to have any debt whatsoever. But yeah, obviously I had a spot. And then, as I said, living there, and like I was doing my final year of bachelor's in fashion design, meaning I had to pay for all of the fabrics, maybe extra seamstresses if I needed to finish my collection, my rent, food, and like regular day-to-day stuff. And it kind of started to pile up. So I was looking for a second job. And that's how I started to make money on the side as a freelance graphic designer for the Slovak National Power Plant, which was, again, very lucky. that I got that job because I did not plan on it. It just sort of happened because they had like a competition online and the prize was 500 euros. And for me at that time, 500 in cash was like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. I could use it towards my collection. I could use it towards my rest. I could like do a lot, even though right now I don't really think that was a lot of money. But back then it really helped me out. So
Oh yeah, exactly.
so I really I made a design or a poster design for that competition and they really liked it. So I won. And after that, they offered me like a full-term, contract to like continue and help them out with their stuff and basically build a brand new like brand identity for them, which, for an 18-year-old, how old was like maybe like 20, 21 years old. And I just started with graphic design. So for me, it was like a big deal. And I really put a lot of effort into it. And I really made sure. Sometimes I feel like I was working or like I was focusing more on the work than on my actual studies because it was really hard here to separate, like being in school all day, every single day, and then coming home at night and pulling all-nighters just to finish your work stuff. I have no idea where I got the energy because right now, I don't know how I did it. I wouldn't be able to do it again, I guess. It was like...
I mean, if the carrot of the money is probably the one like, oh, I'm going to earn some money here. Because I was submissive.
I think it's like the energy, like you have so much more energy when you're like a teenager or in your early 20s and you can do so much, honestly, and focus. And now, I don't know, I just, I'm getting lazier and lazier by the day, it feels like.
I think I wasted my my energy in my youth just going out a lot.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Maybe we like burned out the energy back then, and now we're kind of running on fumes. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. I feel like I am. I turn 30 in a few weeks' time, so.
But that's still young. I mean, come on. That's like not even
yeah, that's true. Hopefully, yeah. Although I lose my my third off rail card in a year's time, which is quite upsetting. So it's a British thing. You get really cheap train travel. So you've moved then back from the UK and you've gone to Sweden, right? Or back to Denmark first.
Yeah, exactly. So after I finished my bachelor's, I kind of realized that fashion is maybe not what I see myself in. But to be really honest with you, I think I got a lot of influence from my ex-boyfriend at the time because he was working as a UX UI designer in the automotive industry, and I kind of just got into the same industry because of that influence. And also, I realized that I like working with graphic design, interaction design, and I would like to, do something more with that later on. Because I think I was really good at it. So I decided to apply for a master's in interaction design back in Copenhagen because I kind of missed Copenhagen. So yeah, I went back there. That wasn't really an issue because I've already knew a bunch of people and I knew the system. And so that was really, again, an easy move for me. But then the hard move was from Denmark to Sweden, actually, even though it's Scandinavia, it's super close, culturally it's very similar. But the process of getting a residence permit in Sweden was extremely difficult for me. I don't know if it was the same for you when you moved in, but it was
yeah. I mean, mine was post-Brexit, so
yeah, that's even worse.
I had to get a work visa, so I had to wait 10 weeks for a work visa, and then I could confirm my accommodation, and that happened during summer vacation, so no one was doing any work, and it took me 4 months to get a bank account and get a personal number, and yeah.
Oh my God, I remember. Yeah, the personal number was the biggest issue for me, actually. I couldn't get it. They didn't want to allow me to get it. There were more specific reasons, but basically when I got offered the job, they offered me a consultant position, meaning that I had to open my own company to actually be a consultant for Polestar. And there was a catch-22 because whenever I tried, at the Swedish officials to get a permit, they said that, there's a problem, unless I have a full-time employment contract, they cannot give it to me. There was always something, whatever I gave them, it wasn't enough. And even though I was kind of moving from Denmark, it didn't make things easier. I thought it would be easier because, Scandinavian countries are so close. But it wasn't the fact. So it was really hard. And I only got the residence permit because I told them that I will be living with my ex-boyfriend now. Like then it was my boyfriend, and he was already living in Sweden for a few years, and he's been paying taxes, and he has the personal number and everything. So I kind of told them that we are registered at the same address, and we've been living together on and off because I was going Copenhagen, Copenhagen for the whole a lot. So yeah, I was kind of living with him already, and after that they accepted him. They call it sambo in Swedish. So as long as you have a sambo, someone you live with, then that was my ticket to Sweden, basically. That was my ticket to get a personal number.
Wonderful. And I guess you're still there. You're still living in Gothenburg.
Right now I'm in Slovakia, but yeah, I live in Sweden.
That kind of closes the first section then, because we've kind of followed your journey of how you've got everywhere, which is wonderful. So welcome to section 2 of the podcast, all about being there. So Laura, you've obviously lived in so many different places now. I guess the first thing is culturally, what do you see when you first left at 16 to go to Denmark? What was your biggest kind of change, or what did you notice between the two countries? Obviously European countries, but still vastly different.
So again, I was 16 years old, so the things I noticed back then are definitely not maybe as important or as big as I would notice if I moved there when I was, now 26. But I noticed everybody smokes. Every single person, teenagers. And the main conversation opener was, do you have a lighter? And I didn't smoke. I never did. I never liked it. So it was very hard for me at first to kind of sit out all the smoking breaks, because they were taking a lot of smoking breaks. So at some point you just find yourself going out with the group and kind of sitting there and smelling the smoke, because everybody smokes. So that was the first thing. And obviously the school was very different. The approach that the teachers had to the students, it was artistic oriented. We also had art classes and music classes, and we had our own band in the school, and we could we did covers and songs. It was really fun, it was a fun way to spend time together, to learn. It was more like building a community, because it was kind of a community. It was a high school where you actually lived in the high school, so you could say it was a boarding school. So we all lived together, and everybody was just so nice, and also everybody spoke perfect English. And I know that might not be as surprising for some people as it was for me, but coming from a post-communist country where nobody speaks English, it was kind of a nice surprise that, very young people, even kids, speak English and fluently.
Yeah, I think in Scandinavia it's 90% or something speak English. It's more than England, I think, which is quite amusing, because we don't have to learn it to the level that non-English speakers as the first language have to learn it, because you do it colloquially and that's fine. Whereas if you learn it as a second language, you have to actually learn the language and the rules.
Yeah,
if you're lazy like me, that's not important.
No. I mean, it's nice that you are born and you can travel from day one, basically, because you know the language.
On English, so obviously you said Slovakia is not really a high level of English speaking. Maybe now so, than 10 years ago. But did you learn it from a young age, or was your family teach you it, or how did you go about learning English? Because I guess you must have had a level to get to Denmark.
No. Well, we had English at school, in my Slovak high school, but it was definitely not on a level that you would be able to communicate with people. It wasn't it wasn't a lot. First of all, we had very few classes, in my opinion. And second of all, the teachers were qualified, but only up to a certain level. So I've always had a private teacher, and this is something I'm very grateful for my mom especially, because she found this amazing English private teacher back in my hometown. And I've had classes with her every single week, and it was just personal, one-to-one. And basically she's gotten me to a level where I feel comfortable speaking and communicating. And obviously, then I left to Denmark, and it only got better and better. But I've always had a private teacher, even though we have it in schools.
Okay, so quite a good tip then if people wanting to learn any language. It's getting the one-to-one time with private tutoring to help.
Definitely, if you want to learn a language, you gotta have a one-to-one. Because I've tried, like even learning Swedish. I understand it. My vocabulary is not as big as in English, obviously. So I still prefer English, but just like I've tried group classes, it didn't really work for me. I've tried watching movies in Swedish, but then again, I just kind of, out of laziness, turned on the English subtitles. And again, it wasn't really working for me. So the only thing that really worked was getting a private teacher and having like classes with her, doing your homework. That's very important, because if you have one class a week and then you don't do anything for the rest of the week, then you're not really learning. You forget everything that you learned the first week, and then you join the class the second week and you're like blanked out. So yeah, do your homework, get a private teacher, or maybe just like get a lot of Swedish friends that kind of speak Swedish so you can listen in. What really helped me as well was I do a lot of horse riding, and recently I got my license in Sweden, in Gothenburg, and all of my classes are in Swedish. So if I do like 2 classes a week and it's all in Swedish, so basically now I know a lot of horse terms in Swedish. That is good, because we also have small talks with the teacher. So yeah, it also helped me a lot.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, because I played volleyball, which is predominantly spoken by English-speaking people. There's no lessons for that. But no, it's great you mentioned about private tutoring. I think going from Denmark to the UK, was that a huge culture shock for you then as well? Because you said it's Kingston, right? You lived in
Kingston. I lived in Cambridge actually, because Kingston had top degree in there. So I'm qualified and I have a diploma from Kingston, but I lived in Cambridge and I studied there. And obviously, I've been to the UK many, many, many times before, and I've always liked it. I especially love Nando's. I really wish they had Nando's in Sweden.
Cheeky Nando's. It's common.
And Wagamama, and like Weatherspoons and these kind of, like, this is the thing I need.
I mean, no one likes Weatherspoons, so.
But I really like their pancakes, like the morning breakfast pancakes. I loved them.
I don't think I've ever had Weatherspoons. I might have to go get some.
Yeah, go get, like, it's the best breakfast after hangover. Like, get the thick, good pancakes. Yeah, but it wasn't as big of a shock for me, because obviously I knew England back then pretty well. Again, my ex used to live there, so I visited every month, or like every second month, which is a lot. So it wasn't as big of a shock. The only shock that I kind of experienced, and that was maybe, subjective. It might not apply to everyone, but I moved into the house with the girls, and I kind of was like, you guys are walking around here in your shoes. Like, what the hell? It's like people walk around with shoes, and they have carpets everywhere. I think they all also had a carpet in the bathroom or something, and things get dirty because it's always muddy in the UK. It's raining, it's windy. So I was kind of surprised that, they have shoes inside the household. I was like, I don't know. I'm a bit of a germaphobe. So for me, it was like a big no-no.
Yeah.
I adjusted.
It is something you do. I do think about a bit more. Like, it's not as insisted upon to leave your shoes at the door. I know my parents had a utility room at the side of the house where you walk in, shoes get left in there, then you go into the house. But we have always had like mainly wooden flooring. But yeah, I have rented properties with carpet in the bathroom, which is nice in the winter when you get out the shower and it's not cold.
It gets soggy, just like moldy.
It does get germy and moldy, but the only time it's nice is when it's freezing cold and you want something warm to step. But you put a towel down.
Yeah, a towel.
And it kind of solves the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do find it odd having carpet in the bathroom.
Yeah, there was like only, but my other classmates that had more money than me back then, they used to live in this super cool new build student accommodations. It was like, huge brand new apartments. It was really, really good looking, but back then I couldn't afford to live there basically. So it really depends on your budget. I think you can live in a super, super nice place in the UK, anywhere in the UK. if you're willing to pay for it. Otherwise, as a cheap young student with no budget to start with, I think it's very hard to first of all find accommodation. Second, find a place without cockroaches and like carpets and mold and stuff. So
and really, really slanting small ceilings. I'm quite tall, so that was the biggest problem for me. And a bed that I could fit in was my biggest issue when I was renting places in the UK.
Yeah. I'm lucky that I'm short.
But when you were living in Cambridge then, did you go punting?
Yeah, we did all of the, student stuff. It was such a beautiful city, honestly. Like, if people have never been to Cambridge, I really recommend visiting only for a few days. Because it was really a student city. And especially, in spring and summer, it was just so nice to be outside. And I love the architecture. It really feels like you're in Hogwarts, Like, coming from a person that, again, grew up in a post-communist country and every building here looks like shit. Going to Cambridge and seeing the architecture there was like, oh my gosh, this is like Harry Potter movie, honestly.
I mean, I lived in Oxford, so I'll be biased and prefer Oxford to Cambridge.
Yeah, Oxford is also nice, but I visited and it was beautiful, but I don't know, Cambridge just, it grows on you, The more time you spend there.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, the more it kind of grows on you.
Problem is, it's a bit like out the way.
Yeah.
All transport stops at Cambridge, and you can't really get anywhere.
Yeah, but as the only places I've been to when I was studying there was Cambridge, London, Cambridge. And I've been to places like Peak District, which I absolutely loved. I think that's such a nice, like, holiday place.
The climbing Mecca as well. Or bouldering Mecca.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think England has a lot of beautiful sites to visit.
Well, I grew up near the Lake District, so it's also very beautiful. But
yeah.
And then fast forwarding a bit more, going back to Copenhagen second time, we kind of touched on Denmark. But as an adult or as a sort of a bit older, did you go back looking at it a bit differently?
I was more chilled, because I was already there. I knew the people and I knew how it works.
Was that just in Christiania? Or?
No, to be honest, I didn't really go to Christiania. I didn't like it that much. But to be frank, there was nothing that much different apart from my accommodation, because when I was living there before, I used to live in a house on a beach, which was so beautiful. It was such a room. Like,
the dream.
You looked out from the living room and you saw the sea. It was beautiful, honestly. But again, it took you 40 minutes to get into the center of Copenhagen. So, yeah. And now, the second time I moved in, I already knew how the system works, so I was quick and I signed up for this list of, a queue to get like a student accommodation, a student housing, like a student dormitory. And I got one at Ama, which is pretty central, and it was like 5 minutes bike ride to my university back in the day. And I had the apartment all to myself, and I lived on the highest floor, so I had quite a view. So again, I was lucky to get it. And I really enjoyed it back then because you're so central, you can take your bike everywhere. And, Danish people bike everywhere. If you don't have a bike, you're not Danish. So they really take advantage. Even when it's raining, when it's snowing, it doesn't matter. Like, it's the lifestyle. So obviously I got a bike and I biked everywhere and I really enjoyed it.
Wonderful. And then going to Sweden, obviously they're very closely kind of linked in terms of culture. Did anything shock you apart from Systembolaget?
Yeah, that was actually a thing. Because when my ex lived here and we went there together, I was obviously too young. Because I think the age limit here is like 21 or something.
To buy. Yeah. You can drink in a bar, but then you can't buy it in...
And you can drink in a bar from 18, but to buy, isn't it 21 or 22 years?
Yeah, from Systembolaget, yeah.
I wasn't old enough. And even though I went there with the person that was old enough, they checked both of our IDs and they didn't sell it to him because I was with him. So it was like a first, like, wait a minute, that's so weird. I mean, maybe he's not buying it for me. Like, company. But so Systembolaget is a thing that's like you have to get used to it. So if you want to buy alcohol, you gotta go there, in these specific hours, which is kind of annoying. And to be really, really honest with you, I usually just get alcohol from back home. And I get it sent. Then I don't know, should we go into the pluses or the minuses? Because obviously there are two.
Both.
Both.
It should be both. Yeah, it's a like full exposure of what it's like?
Okay, so yeah, the plus is that I've always felt very safe. I feel comfortable like walking around at night or late evening alone on the streets. I feel comfortable and safe. Never anything has happened to me. Maybe I should knock on wood. But also, like there are certain parts of the city here in Gothenburg that people say, there are gangs living there and there are shootings and stuff like, Kortedala and stuff like that. But my ex lived in Kortedala. We spent so much like years there and, nothing ever happened really. So yeah, I guess really depends on who you hang out with, maybe. I don't know. But I always felt safe. I always liked the nature because it's so close to the city. Like I can just walk outside my apartment right now and be in a park with trees and, like greenery and lots of little ponds with ducks and stuff like that. And I really like it. I actually have like, there's a little pond with ducks and every spring we have little ducklings and it's so, so cute.
That's great.
Yeah, so the nature is super close to the city. I think it's very nice. You don't even have to have a car just to, go hiking, for instance, or something like that. And I like the sauna culture because people here love the sauna. I used to hate sauna. Honestly, I don't like being sweaty. But when you have a sauna and you really get so warm, and then after that you get to jump into the sea, then it's total experience. And especially if you're looking at like the archipelagos and you have a different view and a scenery, it all kind of builds up into one great experience. So I learned how to like sauna.
I mean, I hate being hot.
Yeah.
Like too warm. So sort of for me, I can stand it for a few minutes, but I was like, no, I'm too warm, I'm going. But then I went to the Arken Hotel, the spa, if you've been there, and it's so beautiful. So now I can't stop going.
It's really good, especially there's an island outside of Gothenburg. I don't know if you've been there. I think it's called Bratten something.
Is this in the south? I
think it's called Styrsö actually.
Oh, this is the one. I have been there. The one where there's no cars. It's just the golf cart things.
Yeah, exactly. You can rent it. That's a cool thing. You can rent a golf cart, even though you don't live there or anything. You just rent the golf cart and you drive around the island, and it's like so much fun. So every time someone comes and visit me in Gothenburg, I take them to the island and we drive around in golf cart and have a picnic, and it's fun. But the thing I wanted to say, there's an island where the community has a sauna with a hot tub and you can rent it out even though you don't have a house there. But they have like an online web page and you just like sign up and you can like go there with your friends for half a day or a full day and enjoy the sauna, jump into the sea, go into a hot tub, have a barbecue, It's really fun. They have all of these things and they really take care of them. So if a community of houses or apartments or, just like the city really takes care of the, the things that they own. Everything is clean. Everything is super nice. Everything is taken care of, So it's really nice to walk around anywhere basically because everything looks like very picturesque.
Anything more about living in any of the places you've lived in that you wish to comment on, or have you felt you've touched most of it, or any negatives you said before? You might have some cons.
Yeah, so the negatives in Sweden, the taxes. Oh my God, the taxes. Like you pay so much in tax, and obviously I think it's for a good cause and for a good reason, and they use the tax money wisely, and there's no corruption. Luckily, like politicians are kind of honest, I would say. I mean, compared to Slovakia, there is no corruption compared to Slovakia, right? So that's definitely a plus. But the amount of tax that you pay is sometimes overwhelming because obviously you get a lot of back. But when you think about it, that, as a single child-free person that doesn't study anymore and is healthy, then you really think like, okay, I'm paying a lot of tax, but I know it's for a good reason. I'm just complaining about small things. Living in Scandinavia means you're gonna pay a lot of tax, and of course you can then take a lot of advantage from paying all of these taxes when you get kids, or if you want to go to education because it's for free, or if unfortunately you get sick and the system takes care of you. So of course you get a lot back. But if you're none of those things, then you're just like sitting there spending money to the government. Like, yeah, take my money. And it's a lot.
I did a thing. I was saying tax is going to be really difficult in Sweden, but then the UK it's actually a similar amount I pay in tax because it's not in Sweden it's grouped into one thing. It was just it's your tax you pay. Where in the UK it's like you'll pay income tax, then national insurance, then I've got my student loans, which are basically an education tax, and it's like well, actually ends up being more than what I'm paying in Sweden.
Yeah, you paid in such small increments, and then it adds up into a big chunk.
Yeah, and council tax. If you live in a property, you pay a tax to the local council, which I've not had to pay in Sweden. Don't think I should have had to pay in Sweden either. They get you in more ways than one, but income tax sounds low. It's 20% up to a certain amount, then 40%, but then if you add the rest to it on, it ends up being quite a lot.
To be honest, my experience in Sweden has been a bit rocky when it comes to paying taxes because I've always had my own company. So before, I had an enskild firma, which is something like you run your own, like a sole trader, I would say. And then after that, I opened the AB, which is, a limited company. Yeah. And as an enskild firma, you basically see all the money like leave your, it's like, I felt like 70% of what I got just poof, it left my, like, oh my, because when I started working, I was like, what, 22, 23 years old. And I was like, oh my gosh, like at 23, I'm making quite good money, I can go on holiday now and I can finally afford things and yay. And then my accountant came in and he's like, you owe this money to the government. You have to pay this. And it was like 70% of everything that I had. I was like, oh my.
Yeah, I guess as a company, it's much more because I've always been salary based. So I know Polestar pay a lot of money for me to be in Sweden.
Yeah, because when you're like an employee, you don't really see it. You get your salary and you pay like that, a little bit of that, as a tax. But now I have my own company, so the limited company, and I employ myself. And I could write a book about this, honestly, to like all the expats that are opening a company in Sweden to not make the same mistakes as I did, because I lost a lot of money, especially due to a bad accountant and bad planning, because I had no idea about the law rules in Sweden. So I employ myself and I basically pay the company tax, the tax for myself as a private person, the social fees, like all of that. And I can see everything like very clearly, and it's a lot. So it's quite overwhelming, and up until this year, I didn't actually have a system. I didn't have a good accountant. I didn't know what I'm paying for, and it took me a lot of time. And luckily, I had like great people that helped me and explained it to me, and like. My boyfriend, he basically made up the whole... He could be my accountant because he explained everything to me, and now I finally have a system in place, which is great, and I finally can, save money in my company and know what a dividend is and how to pay it out at the end of the year, and the dividend is only taxed 20%, which is much less. So, yeah, I just learned all of these things as I go, and I think if they learned it, or if people had this knowledge before they come here and open a company like me, they would save so much headache and so much money. And yeah, I
guess the government wants you not to know that because then you pay less tax.
I don't think it's that much about like paying less, but obviously you pay a little bit less tax. Like if you have a lot of expense in your company and you can count it in your company, you reduce your tax base, which is great. So if you have a company that can, you can have a company car, or like electronics, software, stuff like that. But that's something I only learned like now. So, and also having a good accountant really helped. So if I could, like, I would make a list of good accountants and like send it to every company in Sweden, because a good accountant can really save you so much. And a good accountant, having a good bank person in your business bank, and a lawyer, but fortunately I didn't need that so far. So, but
which one again? Yes, well, I guess that kind of sums up section 2, where you kind of given us a really good in-depth kind of view of your life in several countries you've lived in.
Yeah, but the other thing, I don't know if somebody talked about this at this podcast before, but like the bidding system when you're buying an apartment, maybe that's something.
Oh no one has.
Yeah, like maybe that's like an advice for people that are moving in there and want to buy a property. There is a bidding system in place, so it's a bit chaotic at times. When you want to buy an apartment, there's an asking price, and basically there's a viewing. You can go in, check it out, have a look. And after that, people that are interested start to bid, and whoever bids more wins the apartment. However, there's always some catch. Like I've won like 2 or 3 biddings, and I never got the apartment in the end because there's always something. Maybe I was just very unlucky. But first, the owner decided not to sell because they wanted more money. Second time, the agent texted me the same day as I won the bidding that somebody placed a secret bid and the apartment is no longer available, like bye-bye. There's always been something. So this whole system actually is very stressful when you're in a bidding. You have to be on your phone all the time during the day because you're like constantly talking to the agent and like to your bank and stuff, and raising the bid. And people here bid like it's monopoly money. Like I have no idea. Like it's like they don't realize how much it actually is. I feel like instead of like bidding a little bit, like, I don't know, 1,000 euros or maybe like, a 10,000 euros. No, 100,000 euros more. I'm fine with that. I was like, people here bid a lot.
Yeah, it's that Scandinavian disposable income is too good, I suppose.
So buying a property here is a hustle, honestly. At least that was the experience for me.
Have you managed to buy one yet, or are you still
Well,
looking?
no. As I said, I won like 3 biddings, and at the end of every one, there was a problem, and I couldn't get the apartment. I couldn't sign the contract because, either of the seller or because of the agency, or
Both.
the problem.
Well, hopefully soon you'll close the year with an apartment.
Well, maybe it's a sign, that I'm not supposed to stay in Sweden. I don't know.
Well, that's a perfect segue to the next section. So welcome back to section 3 of the podcast, which I've not actually named, but it's a kind of review of the time. The other two have nice names, whereas this one's like review or, FAQ. That's catchy.
Finale.
But yeah, exactly. The crescendo. But so I guess the first question I think to ask is, if you could go back to when you were 16 and you left home, like what would be some advice you would give yourself, or what would you tell yourself to do more of or less of, or not even think about? Is there something you could springs to mind? Or
an advice I would give myself would be make more decisions faster. And that's only because I'm a very indecisive person, and that has gotten me into a lot of trouble during my life. So make more decisions and make them faster. An advice to people that are decisive and are young right now would be something that my mom actually told me when I was a child, and that is that people can steal your things, your materialistic things, but nobody can steal what you have in your hand and what you experience. So collect experiences instead of, materialistic crap. You don't need that. So that's something that I've always kind of carried with myself. And I think it's a good advice to everyone, to be honest.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've not even thought of that, but yeah, it makes complete sense, and it's so obvious when you say it out loud. But it's like, wish I thought.
And advice to people that would move to Sweden or want to move to Sweden or Scandinavia or any other country, to be honest, would be to visit it before you move in, because obviously you should have kind of a feeling of what you're getting yourself into. So visit before moving, and also be very patient. As I said, just the small things like getting a residence permit can take forever, but it's really worth it in the end. Just being patient really helps.
No, that's a very good point. I was lucky that I got to come on some work trip, albeit during COVID. It meant that I knew people when I moved. So my first evening, I wasn't alone. I went for dinner with some colleagues, which was very kind of them because it was during summer vacation and they did not need to be with someone who's there for work. So I was quite blessed, ready to have some good colleagues and friends who, gave me a list of things to do, like go to migration services, get your immigrant card.
Yeah, people here are super nice. Everybody's so kind, and I've never worked in such an environment that it's like no drama whatsoever. And as I said, I've been living here for like 3 years now, and there has never been any drama in my workplace. Everybody's nice and kind, always happy to help. And I think they really, really care about work-life balance. So if you say you're unwell or something, no questions asked, you can stay at home. Or if you say like mentally maybe you're not doing well, there are so many options to get help. Or if you are a parent and have kids, you can just stay at home with the kids in case they are sick and they can't go to kindergarten, and nobody asks any questions. You just say, okay, my kid is sick this morning, I'm staying home. And that's it, and also if you have a family, I've heard that Sweden is one of the best countries to actually start a family because it's so benevolent to, maternity leaves, paternity leaves, the amount of money you can get when you are on maternity leave. It's you feel so comfortable, basically, that the system is taking care of you.
Yeah, it's a nice net to catch you should you fall or should you need to not work.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's a very good point. Sadly, I'm not going to make use of it.
You don't know yet. Maybe you're coming back.
Yeah.
Come on.
True. Yeah. Never say never.
Exactly.
I know. I hope I'd live for my time to accumulate for getting a European passport again. Because since I lost mine, it's quite upsetting.
You lost your passport? No way.
No, as in because of Brexit, I have no European passport.
Okay.
Well, I do. It still says European Union on until 2028.
I thought you had dual citizenship or something, and you lost one of it.
No, I'm British.
Okay.
Just British.
Okay.
Although I think my dad can get an Irish passport, but I can't because his granddad was Irish and not mine. So, but if he got one and before I had kids, my kids are going to be Irish, so it just misses me, which is quite upsetting.
So yeah, I get to work.
I know. I keep telling you. And then kind of going forward, then, so you're at the stage of life now where you are very successful, doing very well in your job. And you said about the next step. Do you see your future in Sweden? Do you want to live somewhere else? Do you want to live in maybe California? Or?
I mean, my love for California. I don't know why. I kind of have a feeling like I must go to the US at least, try to live in the US at least for a little bit. I mean, my great-grandfather was born in Chicago, and it has been my dream to at least visit, and see what's it about. But I'm very happy in Sweden right now, to be honest. I want to grow my company. I want to maybe buy an apartment or a house, finally. And
oh yeah, I've not got one yet, and I'm 4 years older than you, so stay down.
No, I mean, because of the whole bidding system, it's never worked for me. I've been so unfortunate when it comes to this whole bidding system. But I could definitely imagine myself, settling down in Sweden, having some nice house on a beach overlooking the coastline, and making it my base, my home. Maybe getting a Swedish citizenship in 2 years, and then, still be able to travel and, go somewhere else if I want to. But as I said, I'm 26 and I can't really say what's going to happen in 5 or 10 years. If I get an opportunity to move to the US or anywhere else, I will definitely consider it. It's not like I'm rejecting everything right now. I mean, things come and go, and if you have an opportunity, you better jump, I feel. So you won't miss something that's not meant for you. So things will come, and I will definitely consider it in the future. But right now, I'm happy where I am.
I know one thing I keep kind of telling myself is I can always go back. So if I go and I don't like it, I can always go back, or I can move again. It's not the end of the world. At least you've tried it.
Exactly. I feel like our generation is so fortunate to be able to live like we do. Travel, just wake up in the morning and say, okay, tomorrow I'm moving to France, and bam, you can just go there, take a flight, and it's just really easy for us. There are no restrictions, and I see.
Well, there is for me, but
well, because
there wasn't until 2016.
Unfortunately, but even now, you can still travel.
Yeah,
there's a bit more paperwork to do. But still,
I mean, traveling is not a problem. You just go and you 90 days. But in terms of living, even a living is still difficult. You just have to be a bit more passionate about where you apply.
Getting the visa and stuff is difficult, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was quite easy for Sweden. It just took a long time because of bureaucracy.
Yeah.
But they didn't reject me, or I wasn't scrutinized with loads of questions.
No.
It was quite ticking boxes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot of paperwork, but you can still do it. But I look at it from my perspective where, my parents and my grandparents grew up in a communist system, in a communist country. and it was basically impossible for them to go anywhere. They didn't have the opportunities that we do right now. And when I hear the stories, like they had to wait for hours in line to buy oranges for Christmas, and I feel so fortunate that we live, or that our generation lives in a way that we do right now. So yeah,
As long may it continue.
Yeah, you have to look at it from a perspective.
No, completely. And that's a very good point. Looking at it subjectively, you may feel that, it's so hard, I have to do all this stuff, and then you come back and you get a different perspective of, obviously, your parents, grandparents, and you go, actually, it's pretty easy. I'm very lucky. I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, which, and it's not to discredit some people's, issues, but it's more, that's hard for you, but it's been hard for people before as well.
I think it's been harder for people before, especially, for our parents and grandparents. And even now, when we don't really think about the geographical point of view and the national systems that were in place for certain countries, but we look at it like just work in general. Now we can work from home, and we can be in a different country and still work, or work and travel and all of this, and they really, at least my parents and my grandparents back home, in Czechoslovakia, and they didn't have these opportunities.
Yeah, that's very true. Although I've seen a lot of companies now are saying you have to go to the office more. And I'm like, why? Why are we doing that? We've proven it works.
I don't know why companies do that. I think they just feel guilty that they're paying for or they're renting a space and it's empty. I don't know.
Well, just reduce the space, or we'll go into this shit. Anyway, I think this might expand into a annoyance of companies more than. Well, thank you so much for spending the time to take time out of your vacation right now and talk to me. I know we've been trying to schedule this for a while.
Yeah, but
and I've had technical issues my side.
It's been my fault as well. We've been both busy, but I'm very happy that we made it happen. Happy to be here. Thank you.